of this nation. And as I start with leadership and integrity of this nation, I'm going to start by saying that Kenyans, we are so ignorant. And I always say an ignorant person is someone else's food. If you become ignorant, the time if you don't realize your value, someone else will realize and take that advantage of your own value. I always say, and especially from the Westerners' perspective, for them balancing the US dollar to be the most stable currency in the world, it is because themselves they made it to be valuable to them. For us here in Kenya, for us we as Africans, and generally as a Kenyan also, you can make a stone to be a valuable treasure to you. I can make a tree to be a valuable treasure to me. Like the way we had made, or the way we had made our culture so valuable to us. But what happened? So let me get back to track on about leadership and integrity, and also combining these issues of finance bill. I want to start and say that as Kenyans, we have what we call the Constitution of the day. The Constitution 2010 of Article Chapter 1, Section 1, it says that the sovereignty belongs to people. Sovereignty is that we all have the powers. Sovereignty means that we have the government. We are the government. We are the people who can make decisions to bring a good leadership and bad leadership. And sometimes I go beyond the measures not to even blame our clergies, because even the word of God says, if you become ignorant, you will become someone who is so useless because you don't realize the values. We have the powers, and also that the same constitution goes beyond the measures and says that you are supposed to uphold and also protect that constitution at the same time. So when I go directly to an article chapter 118, section 1b of our constitution, article chapter 131 and article 231 chapter 1b, it says about the public accountability, public participation, and it's also combined about the collective or authoritative offices when it comes to management of funds of this country. Before we even go to blame Ruto, let us start where Kenya was born. And before we start, what is our problem? And let us realize who is the cause of root of these problems. Because we are asking a question about a facility that is being built there. And what we are suggesting is, and what we are saying as Kenyans is, building a Ebola facility is not a problem. But don't bring that effectiveness of the affected person in that facility. And where did Ruto get that confidence to build it? I would say that influence from the Westerners has brought a lot of bad shape to us. But it's how we portray ourselves to these people. Ukiangalia Ruto mwenyewe ako America, saa hii ako Belgium, saa hii ako Norway, saa hii ndo anataka kuenda. Yani in a capacity of only in a less than 3 months, ameenda 31 international trips. And all these articles zenye zote nimesema, kuna kitu inaitagwa public participation. Do we really Kenyans come outside to give opinions on how we can shape our country? Just as the same way this system government is so desperate to ask for the information because they are misinformed. Like John Mbadi is misinformed about the livelihoods and the digits contained in that finance bill. A finance bill projecting 4.8 trillion. But it doesn't underline even get to understand the capitation. And also this capitation doesn't understand the current inflation. Sababu kisema the economic survey and the report from Kenya National Bureau of Statistics mnasema wamebalance what we call inflation rate from 9% to 2.5%. But we have cases in Kenya over maybe 15 million who can't even afford 100 shillings. Not even 100 shillings, 3 meals per day. So busy building infrastructures, but the livelihoods of this nation are suffering. The businesses are surviving through credits, loans. Nani alikuambia kujijenga kwa maisha ni kukopa? When you look at this finance bill, it's also phrasing about the creditors, not the livelihoods. Tumeleta yote, tumegawa, pesa imeisha, tunaenda kukopa 1.1 trillion. Jameni. Again, when we talk about the information, also on these articles, inaongelelea access to transparent and accountable, reliable information from the government press and from the government sources. Do they put these figures to public domain for us to get all these figures zile zinaenda kufanya kazi? And Kenyans, are we answerable to that? That is the question of the day. So my point is, as Kenyans, let us not be at a point to relax so much so that we can trust these politicians in and out. I'm against these shenanigans, everyone shenanigans, and I support every Kenyan who support the constitution because it defends you, and also that constitution gives you a right to defend it. We have gone beyond the measures. Even our president has become immune across to all three arms of the government. We can see how big the judiciary is being manipulated by the executive, and we can attest to that. Not our judges, not our lawyers. You have made judiciary a business room for business mongers. My people, it is the highest time we realize, as before we approach next year 2027, it all starts with me and you. The kind of ignorance that we have will take us to nowhere. Which is this ignorance I'm saying? Ni kukagua viongozi vizuri. Kama mtu haelewi shida ya kwenu mahali huko, your MCA doesn't really understand the issues that is in your area. For instance, in hapa Nairobi ukiangalia CBD ward mahali niko, Andastare constituency, MCA must be answerable. Kwa nini ukienda Mfangano Lane, Mfangano Street, ukienda hapa Moi Avenue imejaa takataka, and yet you are calling it Nairobi City, one of the best city improvised with infrastructure Africa, lakini ndio imejaa takataka na chokora. Also in this finance bill, does it address the issues of vulnerability? Because we had taken the vulnerability bill to these parliamentarians so that they can come up with methods on how we can maliza hii mambo ya street family kurandaranda ovyo ovyo. How they can address youth unemployment, how they can address community initiated programs, kazi mtaani, subsidies na waivers zenye ambazo mnafaa kutupatia kuis about the lives of Kenyans. In that finance bill, hakuna kitu kama hiyo. But the government capitation focuses on heavily funding KDF, mwapea over 500 billion shillings. Police, over 200 billion shillings, because we are approaching next year's 2027 election, so that they can defend you. Because barracks is bigger than the Kenyans. Ama sababu historia inaweza jirudia. Is that what you're fearing, Samuel William Ruto? Do you understand, John Mbadi, the numbers of Kenyans, so that unaenda kubalance hiyo hesabu pale? And for those who execute these policies, the PSs, the CSs who look up to our policies, are you affirmed that we have all crises everywhere? Not in education, not in health, not in... Yani we have people who are not experts. You can imagine Joe akishikilia kitu ya mining. You can imagine President William Ruto akienda Norway na Belgium kuaddress issue ya blue energy, na atatupata secure 1,000 jobs. You can imagine, yet we have millions of unemployed youth, and yet they are learned. Je, when you are kona skills na wajasoma na still ni watu wako innovative, what are you doing about them? So it's all about the government to balance what's going on, because you don't understand what are you trying to prioritize. Is it the prioritizing Kenyans first, ama ni prioritize State House first? Maana parliamentarians told us that those 31 international trips ambazo I know they are like not less than 4 months, mlimpatia 4 billion, yeye akaenda akaongezea more than 5 billion. And therefore this professional John Mbadi akakuja hapa bunge la mwananchi, the way he explained about prioritizing the issues of Kenyans, ali address in a very difficult way as a politician. kuhepa na kukwepa maswali na majibu kutoka kwa Wakenya. The government of the day doesn't look on the needs of Kenyans. It's just a simple preassumption to only to take you to a mileage, safeguarding these political seats because it's a system serving your masters. Mnasahau na Wakenya na wao ndio walioajiri kazi. Kenyans of goodwill, there's no any one time I'm going to advise you Kenyans of goodwill and especially Gen Z ati kugoja hii June 25th tuende kwa protest, and yet the constitution itself tells us clearly huyu ndio mtu tulimpatia kazi, na kama umeajiri mtu kazi sasa amekulemea, utampeleka kwa koti for petition ama ni kazi utamfuta? And we have that powers kutoa William Ruto na tuseme one term because it's real for us and we really mean it. Ukiangalia biashara huku nje watu wanasema we are driving our businesses using loans. Hawezi jenga biashara yako na loan. So as I conclude, Kenyans of goodwill, let us be legitimate to this constitution of the day, and let us not die for less ati kukumba na kuua roho na hawa watu. You can fool people sometimes but not all the time, and this phrase goes to the executive, goes to the judiciary and the legislature of the day, that William Samoei Ruto also, you are not immune to all three arms of the government, and you cannot be immune to even the Kenyans who are suffering.